Hey y'all, I'm Sarah Mel, and this is Phases of the Womb podcast. In today's episode, we will be talking to Ciarra about her pregnancy journey, COVID, and her postpartum journey. All right. So, first thing I want to ask is, what was your pregnancy like for you, especially going into 2020 with COVID? How was that for you?
So it was initially, so I got pregnant 2019 and then like August. So August of 2019, things were smooth. I mean, we were just kind of going through the flow. You can't really predict a national pandemic.
Right.
Then, we had like our gender reveal and stuff when we're just planning as normal. And then March, that's when everything hit. Things just got real ghetto real fast. Like it was, it was like we went from Sarah being able to go to the appointments with me to me going by myself, which was awkward in itself, just because like dang, like y'all, that's a scary, it's a scary thing. It's something new. It's something that I don't really, how do you prepare?
Right.
So that was very different. And then just like all of the different changes, like, here in Houston, like I had a really nice medical staff. Shout out to you for even knowing, like, oh yeah, they're good, having worked there. And so I felt a little bit more at ease, but even still, there was just like a lot of like uncertainty. They were talking about like only one person will be able to go with you when you're giving birth. And I'm like, dang, like this is my first baby. I was hoping that, my parents and his parents would be able to be there. Right. So it was just like a lot. And but for the most part, I tried to stay as level-headed and calm as possible, just because I'm naturally, well, I won't say I'm naturally anxious, but I do have like anxiety. And so I just was trying to be positive and, take it one day at a time. And then us being stuck in the house, I wasn't really tripping off of that because I'm a homebody in general. So that wasn't anything that was too crazy. It was just more so, well, for me, I was just super cautious. I just wanted to make sure, like, so I was being careful of who was coming in and out of the house, like, and where they was coming from. And, so it did make me, I feel like a little bit more, even more cautious. Like I said, I'm anxious. And so, well, I think since baby, but, in that experience, but it just made me even more like vigilant and like make sure like, okay. And then when it was time for having the baby, it was just different. But I feel like you reassured me, just of like, having worked in the hospital that I was giving birth at. So that kind of eased my mind of like, okay, things are going to be okay. And yeah, I mean, I was glad that, it could have been worse. I was glad that I had at least one person in the room with me rather than, in New York and certain places I would see on the news, like they couldn't have anybody come. And
which was wild. That was wild. I could not believe that. I'm like, what? Absolutely not.
Like, I could not imagine. So, you take your wins. That was a small win, a small but big win in my eyes. So, yeah.
Do you feel like, because I don't know what your plans were prior to, but like, do you feel like not being able to do a lot of things in person, like birthing classes and stuff, affected you at all?
So we did. I think we were able to. We got one last birthing class in before things got really, really crazy.
Okay.
We didn't have to wear a mask or anything, so I think it was like literally right before everything, got crazy. So we did do like a birthing class. And then the only thing that was like very different or than what I expected, I was hoping that, you would be able, or like a midwife would be able to go in and just be there too, because I did plan on going natural. And so I didn't want any type of intervention or any type of, pressure from like the doctors and the nurses. I wanted somebody who knew like,
Yeah.
no, she's fine. But so I think the experience just made us advocate for me a little bit hard, or just like, all right, it's just me and you, like, this is the plan, this is the,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want. If I say something otherwise, then cool, or whatever. Or if, if we both think like I'm too distressed or whatever, we just gotta hold it down ourselves. And so I think, and it also just, the experience was more of an intimate moment as well, because we didn't have all these people coming in and out. Granted, I wish that our family could be there and stuff like that, but it also was just like a time for us to, all right, let's get this baby out, like, and then him being able to step up and just support me in that way, just with it just being us two, and the nurses and doctors and stuff as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm gonna ask you this. I know going into it, your plan was to try to go unmedicated, and you got an epidural.
Yes.
What? I'm trying to see how to ask it. I know some people tend to feel guilty when they do that. How did you feel after? Like, after you thought about everything and processed everything and was like, I didn't plan on getting an epidural, but I got one. Like, what was your thoughts with it?
I honestly was okay. Like, I did wish, like, dang, okay. But baby, I was 17 hours in, okay? I felt all that I needed to feel, and I was ready, okay? Because my child was stubborn. He was flipped the wrong way. And so after that period of time, and they had told me I was only 6 centimeters dilated, I'm like, oh no. Like, and we had checked in, I think, around 2 a.m. And then I didn't get a room in ghetto, but I didn't get a room until like 5 p.m. the next day. So I was just in triage, like, what is it called? Laboring.
Laboring. You were literally laboring in triage. Yes. I remember.
And so after that, I'm like, when we finally got a room and the lady checked me and she was like, oh, you're only 6'7". I was tired. I had to give myself grace. I'm like, Ciarra, you are okay. And I think a lot of it too, the reason I was like so gung-ho on going natural is because I was afraid of an epidural. I hear so many stories of, and I don't like needles. I don't like, and I'm like, my period was never really that, I was an athlete, so I felt like I can, weather it and push through. But honestly, like, I don't know if I would have been able to do it pushing him out, like, and feeling all of that. So I think it just worked. It worked out what's supposed to work for me. I didn't never, like, really feel too bad, because after 17 hours, listen, and I was just so tired. Like, I was ready to, I needed to be the way that those contractions was coming after that longer time, and there was I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel at that point. And like, of course that was the birthing plan and stuff, but I know things changed too. So I was just like, you know what, I need to sleep. And if not, I would I wouldn't be my best self to be able to, girl, the way the contractions, oh my God. So and then after I got it, like, everything, the tech was really, who administered my epidural, was really kind and like explained it. It wasn't, I didn't feel like a pressure from anybody. Like, it was ultimately my choice. And so I think that's why I was okay with the decision that I made, because it wasn't like, I had some people early on, like, you sure you good, blah blah blah, and I had told them straight up at the beginning, and they were like, okay, and nobody really bothered me until we went upstairs, and that's when they checked me, and I was like, oh yeah. So it was like, and then after that I was able to take a nap, and when I woke up, like, they put me in a peanut ball, he turned finally, and I was ready to go, like, I was
That's good though, because I do see a lot of people who come in, they don't want an epidural, and then them contractions hit, and then they get an epidural, but then people feel guilty, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna say this, like, I am a midwife, but I'm not like what they call crunchy granola. I
Mm-hmm.
can be.
Uh-huh.
I work for who, like, for whatever you
Highest.
want. So
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
you
yeah,
want an
yeah. You're gonna
epidural, you want a,
advocate. Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of times I think people who don't want an epidural forget, like, your body also needs rest. If you don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
factor in the rest in between those
Mm-hmm.
contractions effectively, you're gonna be burnt out and you're not gonna make it because your body gonna tense
Exactly.
up. And sometimes, honestly, they have some people that sometimes they do better with an epidural, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you've been laboring for 17, 24, 48 hours, your
Mm-hmm.
body just needs to
You're in
relax.
distress.
Yeah.
Like
And
at that
yep.
point, your body is like trying to fight, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like and I get it, and I just think the circumstances, were just different. Like
Yeah.
my water didn't break how I thought it was
Right.
going to,
Right.
and when it did, and so, and that was the other thing I know that, like, in the order that you kind of read, like, okay, you're gonna start your contractions, then your water gonna break, then the baby's gonna start, and my water broke first, and
Right.
then I started getting my contractions. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I'm also like, okay, things aren't gonna go like this, and that, how we
Yeah.
may think or may plan. And so that was another thing. I'm just like, yeah, because I
Mm-hmm.
would have been, yeah, would have been no. Girl, the way them chills was just everything. It was just like, yeah,
Too
give
much.
it
Too
to me.
much.
And then like, if things, probably would have been, I do probably at some point I think I want to try and go natural, but
Mm-hmm.
I would rather the circumstances kind of be different. Like if it was a water birth, or
Yeah.
even me planning, like, because I only was able to do one class,
Right.
so that preparation and stuff like that, and just really mentally getting locked in, because
Mm-hmm.
when you don't know something, you just don't, like, you never experience it. You only know what you know. So like if
Exactly.
you've never experienced something, then yeah, like,
You don't know.
yeah.
So that was gonna be my next question. So, like,
Mhm.
for your next child, would
Mhm.
you? Is that something you would be interested in giving a go?
Yeah.
Okay. Even
Yeah. I
even
feel like,
knowing what it feels like.
yeah,
You're
because
good.
I just think, like I said, the circumstances was different. Kai
Mm-hmm.
was turned the opposite way. Like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like he was facing and then just like I was naturally laboring him.
Mm-hmm.
He was just stuck
Yeah.
and chilling. And so I feel like I had to take that into consideration too. Like,
Right.
my next baby may be turned, and it may be super easy. Some people say the second baby is, things happen a lot quicker. So I feel like if things were able to happen quicker, and just like where it was just like, yeah, he was already turned and stuff, then yeah, I feel like I could have definitely.
Good. I think you're making a good point though, because I feel like a lot of people get in their head and get stuck on one
Mm-hmm.
thing, and
Mm-hmm.
labor and life is just not like that. Stuff is gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
that you don't anticipate, and it's kind of how
Exactly.
you figure out how to move with it
Mm-hmm.
that I guess makes for a better outcome. You know.
Right. And like I feel like also just um what was the I was proud that I didn't, not, I won't say proud, but like I remember I was offered Pitocin. I'm like,
Mm,
oh no, from what you told me, like,
mm,
I don't want that. I don't need you guys to kickstart anything, and like, start giving like a false, like, um feeling, because I feel like also just like my contractions were, very much real.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't need anything else.
Right.
I just kind of, in my head, I'm like, the stronger they were coming, I'm like, oh yeah, we getting closer and closer. This gotta be,
Mm-hmm.
but girl, still, girl.
Bringing back
Oh my
flashbacks.
god, yeah. But then also, and then it comes into play, just like, I don't know how it would have been like if I would have gotten a room quicker and
Right.
seen like another, like a labor and delivery nurse, and they
Mm-hmm.
gave me a peanut ball sooner. Like I feel like down in triage, like I had a medicine ball and I was
Right.
bouncing, but
Right.
that wasn't what I needed.
Right.
Like I needed him to turn, and so once I
Mm-hmm.
did get upstairs, it seemed like things just started moving quickly. I don't think the epidural was the thing that
Right.
got him to turn. It was
Right.
just more so like those techniques. So it is quite possible, like if I was given those things earlier, yeah, I would have. But yeah,
I agree. I completely agree because I mean I don't think people think about. I mean obviously because of what I do, I'm kind of trained to think about the whole thing. But it's like if you're not progressing as fast as we anticipate you to progress,
what can we do
then
to
right, because a lot of times it's most I feel like most issues are baby's position. So it's like how can we position you to position baby to come on out? And I swear, baby, I swear by a peanut ball. Okay, I
and
love
we
me a
didn't
peanut
even
ball.
know that he was turned a certain way until, because I just kept telling her, I was like, I just feel a lot of pressure right here. And then that was once I was upset because in triage, like they check you in. I got people to check on me here and there, but it wasn't. Yeah,
it's different.
You
had a totally different experience though. Yeah, because I know that hospital, they be booming, and I remember
oh my
talking
gosh,
to you.
and every person they said that they had the most amount of like moms come in that night.
Yeah.
And so all of the rooms, that was the reason that it took so long, was because all of the rooms were full. And, the people who are getting epidurals got priority because if I'm just, chilling, like, I'm just, I don't need a room at that point. Right. And so, yeah, it was crazy. So a lot of people was born on that day.
I think too, and what because I remember talking to you, I'm like, dang, you still in triage. But I think I'm gonna tell you what I think. And that's from working with some of the people there. Because you say you didn't want an epidural, I think they were probably trying to give you the best chance. Because I feel like once you get to the room.
And once the doctor get involved, because as soon as I got up there, like my doctor had called and he was like, "Are you sure you don't want?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." But then they were like, "Okay, let's just check you and see where you're at." And then that's when I heard where I was at, and I was like, and I did get discouraged, but I was just like, "Okay, Ciarra, like." Listen, it's been 17 hours, like it's okay. And so that's when they sent in, I think the nurse was talking to me just because I had just told her I was just like nervous about, because they were like, what are your concerns with the epidural? And I was like, I'm just nervous. I don't like needles. I don't want to see none of that. Like I was getting queasy when they had to put the IV in me. Like I don't want to do none of that. So I think, and then so she was like, she just like reassured me, like she resonated with me. She was like, the tech is really good. Like, I will check. And so she told me, she had me do like either look at her or take a deep breath before they stuck it in me. And it kind of, I didn't really, and honestly, and then what she did say, I remember she was like, the contractions that you feeling right now have no comparison. Like the needle has no comparison to what you're feeling right now,
right.
And so you can do that. Like you're gonna be okay. Like that pain of them sticking you is okay. And then so I was like, all right, let's do it, because I needed some sleep.
So I'm gonna ask you this, because I have a thing with this. The checking thing. I know, like just in the world, everybody is so set on centimeters. It's a thing. Like people go in for their prenatal visits, they want to get checked. They want to know how dilated they are. I'm not a big checker. Like that's not my thing. If you're not doing anything that warrants, or you or baby aren't doing anything that warrants a check, like if baby looks fine, you're doing fine, or if it's not going to affect what I'm doing, I'm not going to check you, because I know, and it's just from seeing stuff, if I have somebody that doesn't want an epidural, right? If I'm constantly checking you and I'm saying 2 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 6 centimeters, 7 centimeters, it's like running. You run. If you like you take off and you go in, then they be like, oh no. You thought you was done. You got like 5 minutes left. Oh no, you're over it now. You no. I was giving it all I have, and now you telling me I'm not done and I'm not doing good. And I feel like it messes with your mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder that, like, when you told me, I remember exactly where I was at when I talked to you. And you was telling me
Mm-hmm.
they checked you and said you was 6 centimeters and blah blah blah, and you was like, nah, just give me that epidural. I'm like, I wonder
That played
if
played a
if
part.
if they would have just started moving you around, giving you
Mm-hmm.
alternatives. If they would have never even brought up that epidural, just giving you alternative, doing the peanut ball, doing all of this stuff or whatever, if that would have made a difference,
Mm-hmm.
because that check-in stuff will discourage people in a minute. Like, I've
But
seen it.
I think also to that point, like the only reason that they did was because I was going from triage into the room. I don't think it was like they didn't constantly check. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
because also I had a new nurse, I
Mm-hmm.
had a new like and then my doctor was like, all right, where is she at, type of thing, to see like are we ready to go.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the only thing, but I get what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
if I was in a room all day and they keep checking me, then yeah.
Yeah.
Because I honestly I really didn't know much about like the centimeters.
Right.
They
Mm-hmm.
didn't like my doctor didn't check me until the last like few
Visits.
visits
Mm-hmm.
of, yeah, leading up to it. And then obviously when I checked into triage, they checked me. And then I think she checked me like maybe one more time while I
Mm-hmm.
was in triage all
Mm-hmm.
that time. And so, but like I said, because in my head, I'm thinking the stronger these contractions are, the
Mm-hmm.
closer I'm getting, like,
Right.
to like it being go time. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a lot. I just wonder. I just be
Mm-hmm.
wondering people's like perspective, because I know my perspective on it, but
Mm-hmm.
also I'm on the other end of it. I ain't in the
Mm-hmm.
situation, so I
Yeah.
just be curious.
No, yeah, I feel you.
All right, so I want to talk about your postpartum experience. What did you experience that you were like, all right, I ain't know this came with all of this. Like, what did you experience and how did
Girl.
you handle it?
Oh, those emotions. Oh my goodness. Like, and then being overly anxious, like PPA, like very just like even intrusive thoughts, like
Mm-hmm.
just it was just, yeah, like, and then it was just like, now I'm caring for a human,
Mm-hmm.
and how to even balance that. And then of course I think also one being in the middle of a pandemic, and then with
Right.
Cyril working away, that was also like thrown into the mix too, of just like, how do I manage this, how do I all these different emotions, and then I'm caring for this little baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was something that like was different for me. I knew, like, no, well, actually, I take that back. A lot of people, I feel like, a lot of times we hear so much about postpartum depression,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't hear about postpartum anxiety,
Right.
and that they're two different things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like PPA can lead to postpartum depression,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of talk about the anxiety aspect of it. And like, it wasn't until like, randomly you know, there'd be mommy influencers that talk about like even the intrusive thought process, like where I could be like, somebody is watching Kai, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if he trips and falls and then the baby flies over? Like,
Yeah.
it would get
Uh-huh.
to that point. And I remember seeing somebody had did a reel about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I done had them thought, like, oh. And I was like grateful that I was not the only one. But I think we hear so much about postpartum depression, but we
Right.
don't hear about the other aspects. Even
Mm-hmm.
like, there was one time I remember I tweeted something because like I was breastfeeding. Well, no, I was getting ready to eat, and it was time for Kai to feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do both. Like, cool, whatever. He doesn't move too much, and I had him latch.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he latched, I had got so irritated. I was touched out, but I knew, like, it just came in a wave, and then it went away. Like, it was like the first like 2 seconds of him latching, and then it went
Mm-hmm.
away. And I remember tweeting about it or posted something, and then I googled it because I'm like, that was weird. And they were like, no, that's the thing. It's I don't remember what it is, but it's like an initial like response to when the milk lets
Yeah.
down. I'm like, bro, what
It's
is
all
this
them
crazy?
hormones. Them hormones
It's
be
so
doing it.
girl, and it was just so crazy. So I think when it came to like my postpartum, it was just, and I still go through it about like just, now he's a toddler, now he's getting into everything, and even still those intrusive thoughts about like, oh my gosh, like what if something were to happen or whatever. And even like with school, like, we're getting closer and closer to sending him to, daycare and stuff like that. But it's just me like getting to that point. And even like for a long time, because it was just me and him, it was hard for me to allow other people to like watch him, because I'm like, who's gonna watch him to the degree that I'm gonna watch him,
Right.
And so that was an adjustment as well. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question,
No, you
but
did.
yeah, it was definitely an adjustment, more so on the emotional side than it was like on the physical side per se. Of course, like, there was times, it was funny because like Cyril will remind me like, remember when like there would be times where at first, because I wanted to breastfeed, and I did breastfeed. I had a very successful breastfeeding journey, but like early on it wasn't easy. Like there was some times where he like wouldn't, like, I remember one time he wasn't like, he would only latch on one pool, and I started feeling like, oh my gosh, is this not gonna work or whatever. And then 2 years in, and I was like, oh baby, I was ready to be done. But yeah, he would just remind me like, remember. And so like I even used that when some of my friends, like, you may be having a hard time, like, you got to stick with it. If and there's a lot of moving parts to it, like with producing and stuff like that, and just but yeah, like, yeah. But I just kind of feel like because of the pandemic, like when I look back at stuff, I'm like, where did time go?
Yeah,
like,
it flew.
it flew, and then it kind of just felt like, sometimes I felt like, dang, like the first few years, well, I wouldn't say first few years, the first year was just, it was just weird. It was just like inside the house, like, and hey, like with the newborn, I didn't plan on running the streets, no way, but like it just was, it just was weird,
Very weird. But I think you handled it amazing.
Thank you.
From what I saw, I feel like you did a very good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I one other question I wanted to ask you, and then I'll let you close with whatever you want to add. Knowing everything that you do now, going through that whole experience with COVID, pregnancy, delivery, postpartum, what is something that you want, like what is the main thing you would want to tell somebody that you feel like they should just know that's not out there? I mean, like you said, postpartum depression is all over the place. Everybody kind of knows what it is and kind of expects it, or people want a natural delivery. Like there's different things you can look for, but what's one thing you felt like you experienced that you feel like is like the main thing people should know?
Let me think. Just being a new mom, or just with motherhood journey in general, it is, you don't know what you're doing. Like majority of the time, I just kind of go with the flow, like, and kind of just like, what works for you. Like I feel like, and maybe they do talk about this, but where you know what's best, like for you and your baby. Like I know initially we wanted him to be sleep trained, and us, all of the different marks, right? You want them to start eating solids at a certain time, and you want them to be in their crib at a certain time. But what works best for you, and you do what works best for you and that baby. Like and especially like in the middle of a pandemic, like we didn't get as much help as we wanted.
Right.
So it was just me and Kai. And so whatever worked, there was times he slept more than I thought that he would, slept with us in the bed. Like, you know, they talk about not sleep and just giving yourself grace. Like, this is what works for us. Kai didn't start eating solids until after one. Like, you know, like every one of those, like, predetermined, like, oh, your kid should be doing this by this age and you should be doing this and blah blah blah. Like, it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white, right. I guess I would say. And even with the emotional side of it, like, you know, people might say this and might say that about motherhood, but it may not look like that for you. So I would just, you know, encourage, like, mamas to be, and already moms, like, you know, kind of just do what works for you and in your family. And, you know, because everybody's gonna have something to say, like, you know, even, I won't say, like, even there would be times, like, I would be trying to ask my mom, like, hey mom, like, did you ever experience, like, and she, obviously it's been 30 years since she had a kid, so it was hard for her to resonate with, right. Because it's been so long. And so, like, even with, like, grandparents and siblings, like, you can get advice from them, but everybody's situation is different. Like, every, you know, so I would just, yeah, I think that's what
I love that, though.
And also seek, like, if you need it, you know, help, like, and talking to somebody, like, I think even in the middle of a pandemic, hopefully we don't ever have another pandemic again like that. But I feel like, just, you know, even with my mom not being able to resonate to a degree of, like, the emotion, just being able to talk to her about, like I remember we were living in an apartment and, like, I would smell gas in the hallway because it was easy for somebody to, like, not fully turn off the stove, and I'm over here having all these panic thoughts, like, do I need to call the, you know, and she's like, take a deep breath. Like, just being able to kind of just redirect how I'm feeling. Like, is this a real, true feeling? You know, eventually I got a therapist and was able to talk to her about those things and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely an outer body experience, if you will, because you don't know, you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. Like, it's just like you're learning as you go, and just giving yourself grace as you learn. So, yeah.
So I just want to say, I really do appreciate you taking out some time. It's like Kai knew we were ending. That's why he popped up. But I really do thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. Because I will say, I don't know of anybody prior to you that had talked about, like, postpartum anxiety. I honest to God didn't know that was a thing until you kind of brought it up, and I just sought more information on it because it's definitely a thing. So thank you. I do appreciate you, and you doing a good job, girl.
Me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, or whatever the social media world does these days, child. And if you would like more information on Phases of the Womb, be sure to go to Instagram and follow me @_Phases of the Womb. We touch on all different topics on our Womb Wednesdays. And usually the topics are whatever we're going to cover on the Fridays when we release our podcast episodes. I have a website. Make sure you click in the link. If you have any questions, be sure to email me, message me on Instagram, whatever you need to do. And just make sure you tune in. I appreciate you. Bye.